So yesterday we talked about the shoes of peace, and I used my skates, and that was in Hawaii, and I am back in sunny California in January, back at my home. My home rink is behind me, and my phone is actually on my skate, so I can roll it towards me or back, so we'll see how this works. But we're going to continue with the armor. And today is the shield of faith. Well, you will find that in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 16. And we're going to talk about putting on your elbow pad. So when I started Derby, and people would say, oh, do you throw a lot of elbows? And they just naturally assume that we hit with our elbows, and we don't. In fact, if we do, we'll get sent to the penalty box. So putting on elbow pads is like, well, you know, obviously they catch the elbow and protect the elbow from falling, but I didn't really understand fully the power of the elbow pad in that it absorbed a lot of hits. So we hit with our shoulders and our core. And so the elbow pad, which sits right here on our elbow, from the hitting and taking hits, the first actually couple weeks I had a lot of bruises on my rib cage, and it was just absorbing the hit. And the elbow the elbow pad protects the elbow to be able to extend and to be able to pull in. So again, the analogies of a shield of faith. The shield is not a weapon. In fact, you know, you don't get the shield, and I'd like to say people don't hit people with the Bible. You know, we don't take the shield and bonk people on the head with it. I mean, I suppose you could. But it's more to extinguish the flames. It's more to absorb and take hits so that you can take action and move while you're holding the shield, while you have on protective gear. So the way that looks, faith in every day. I want to tell you a story. It is one of my favorite stories in the Bible about a woman that was on her period for 12 years. Oh God, can you imagine how pissed off and angry you would be and how miserable? And so she heard that Jesus was in town. She had heard about Jesus. This is when Jesus walked the earth. And by faith, she came out of her home, which was a big deal then because you really couldn't be around society when you're on your period. And so she, by faith, left her home, her quietness, and she fought the crowds all the way just to be able to touch Jesus's garment, because she knew that if she just touched him, that she would be healed. And so we call that faith. And in fact, by the time she made it and she did touch his garment, then Jesus did say to her, well, first of all, he said, who touched me? Which is hilarious because it was obviously packed. People are crowding. He's getting touched all over the place and pushed and shoved. And he said, who touched me? And she, looked at him and said that she did, and he said, it is your faith that has healed you, and he called her as daughter. And you think about what it took for her to get there. I mean, just the pushing and shoving that we do in Derby, and absorbing the hardships to be able to get to Jesus. And that is really faith in action. You know, as a new Christian, or maybe just in your walk, if you still struggle with what faith actually means, it is action. You know, the Bible says that just believing that Jesus raised from the dead is not enough to just believe that, because even the demons believe that. They know that. Faith is taking that and moving and taking action in your life with that faith, with that fear, that respect of who God is, and using that faith to make decisions in your life. A good place to read about people in the Bible who acted on faith is in Hebrews 11, so you might want to take time to read that. Strapping on your pads is like picking up the shield of faith every day. I've told you before, you can't play the game until your gear is on. And so it's an act of faith. Just putting on my pads is an act of faith of knowing I'm going to take and give some hits. So picking up the shield of faith is knowing that you are going to give and take some hits in the Christian walk. And the best place to start and what you can pray today is, God says in his word, if you love me, you will obey my commands. And obey is an action. So you will have to start learning, what does God say that he wants us to obey him in? There's your first step. Find what it is and pick something. Trust me, you cannot obey everything all the time forever. In fact, you'll find that sometimes you're going to get messed up and confused and struggle and trip and fall. Welcome to life and the Christian life. So find something, seek out, and put on your shield, pick up the shield of faith, find something that you are going to deliberately obey God in, and just start to do it. And that is faith in action. See you tomorrow.